David stood at the observation deck of the ISS Meridian, his breath fogging the reinforced glass as he gazed at the bioluminescent city below. Elisara, the crown jewel of Proxima Centauri b, pulsed with ethereal light, its crystalline spires reaching toward the purple-tinted sky like frozen lightning. 3 years he had spent here as Earth's xenolinguistic ambassador, and every day felt like walking through a fever dream painted by gods. The neural resonance readings are off the charts again, Dr. Chen's voice crackled through his calm implant. David, you need to maintain emotional distance. The Elisaran biosignature is designed to be compelling. David didn't respond. His eyes were locked on the figure emerging from the palace's central spire, Princess Elsa of the Luminari, her body a living constellation of photonic cells that shifted from deep violet to soft azure with each graceful movement. The Elisarans weren't humanoid by accident. Their ancestors had engineered themselves over millennia to achieve what they called optimal form, a convergence of aesthetics and function that transcended mere biology. She was addressing the assembly of harmonics, her voice, when translated through the quantum linguistic matrix, like wind chimes made of starlight. David had spent months decoding the harmonic frequencies that constituted Elisaran speech, but lately he found himself understanding her without the translator. The medical team called it cognitive contamination. He called it connection. "I wish I could marry her," David whispered, not realizing his calm was still active. The words escaped like prisoners from a cell he'd locked them in for months. Elsa stopped mid-gesture. Her luminescence flickered, a pattern David had learned meant surprise. Slowly, impossibly, she turned her head toward the observation deck, though she was 3 kilometers away. The Luminari possessed sensory organs that operated on principles human science was still struggling to comprehend. They could detect emotional resonance across vast distances, read the quantum vibrations of sincere thought. Through his neural interface, a private channel opened. Her voice materialized directly in his consciousness, bypassing sound entirely. "My answer is yes." David's heart stuttered. The medical monitors embedded in his suit screamed warnings, elevated heart rate, spiking cortisol, neurochemical chaos. Dr. Chen was shouting something, but the words seemed to come from another universe. "You heard me," David transmitted back through the interface, his hands trembling against the cold glass. "I have heard every word you've whispered for 847 of your days," Elsa replied, her mental voice carrying layers of meaning that human language could only approximate. "Your species believes thoughts are private. Ours evolved past such isolation. To truly know another is to share their inner light." The implications crashed over David like gravitational waves. She had been listening to his thoughts, not all of them, he somehow knew, but the ones he projected with genuine emotion. Every moment he'd stood here, marveling at her intelligence during diplomatic sessions, admiring her compassion when she advocated for the human colony's expansion rights, treasuring the way her bioluminescence dimmed to soft amber when she was deep in thought, she had known. "The council will convene within the hour," Elsa continued. "There are complexities. Your biology and mine are not compatible in the traditional sense, but the Luminari have not survived 3 ice ages and 2 stellar migrations by clinging to tradition." David found himself running through the Meridian's corridors, ignoring Dr. Chen's protests, bypassing security checkpoints with his ambassador credentials. The shuttle bay was a blur of activity, but he requisitioned a diplomatic craft through sheer force of rank and desperation. The descent through Elisara's atmosphere was turbulent. The planet's electromagnetic fields played havoc with Earth technology, but David barely noticed. His mind raced with impossible questions. What did marriage mean to a species that lived for 3 centuries and reproduced through controlled cellular fission? How could love exist between beings whose fundamental biochemistries were separated by 4 light-years of evolution? The palace guards, towering beings whose bodies rippled with defensive chromatophores, parted without challenge. Elsa had given clearance. The corridors were living things, walls that breathed and shifted, adjusting temperature and atmospheric composition for his human physiology. She waited in the chamber of convergence, a spherical room where the luminari conducted their most profound bonds. The space seemed to exist partially outside normal geometry, its walls showing glimpses of other times, other possibilities. Elsa stood at its center, and for the first time, David saw her without diplomatic composure. Her bioluminescence fluctuated wildly: fear, hope, desire, uncertainty, all the universal languages of a heart taking a leap into unknown darkness. "I should explain what marriage means to my people," Elsa began, her physical voice harmonizing with the mental channel. "It is not a ceremony or a contract. It is a literal merging, a quantum entanglement of consciousness. I would experience your emotions as you feel them. You would perceive the world through my sensory dimensions. We would become a bonded pair, two minds in permanent resonance." "That sounds like telepathy," David said, his scientific training fighting through the emotional storm. "It is more. It is choosing to never be alone again, to sacrifice the privacy of self for the intimacy of unity." Her luminescence steadied to a deep, earnest blue. "Your species values individual autonomy above all else. Mine abandoned it 12,000 years ago. I am asking you to make a choice no human has ever made, to join with an alien consciousness, knowing you can never return to who you were." David thought of Earth, of the life he'd left behind, colleagues, family, the woman he'd almost married before dedicating himself to the stars. He thought of the loneliness that had haunted him since childhood, the feeling of being separated from others by a glass wall of his own making. Then he thought of the past 3 years, the way Elsa had patiently helped him understand luminary ethics, which were based on harmonic cooperation rather than individual rights. How she had laughed, a shimmer of gold light, when he accidentally used a mating call instead of a greeting in formal assembly. The nights he'd spent on this observation deck, watching her city pulse with collective life, wondering what it would be like to truly belong to something greater than himself. "What do I need to do?" David asked. Elsa extended what humans would call a hand, though it was more a concentration of light and intention. "Touch me. Open your mind. Trust that what we become will be better than what we are apart." David reached out. Their fingers, flesh and light, met. The universe exploded. He felt himself dissolving and expanding simultaneously. Elsa's memories flooded into him. 300 years of life, the joy of first luminescence, the grief of watching her homeworld sun dim, the weight of leading a species through existential crisis. And she was experiencing him, his childhood under yellow sunlight, the first time he looked at stars and felt called, every moment of isolation and yearning that had driven him across the cosmos. They were no longer David and Elsa. They were a new thing, a bridge between worlds, a proof that love could evolve faster than biology, that consciousness could overcome the tyranny of separate flesh. When they opened their eyes, his brown, hers pure light, the luminary council had gathered. The high resonance spoke in harmonics that David now understood perfectly. "The bond is complete. You are the first of your kind, a hybrid consciousness. You will never be fully human or luminary again. Do you accept this transformation?" David looked at Elsa. Elsa looked at David. Through their quantum bond, they smiled as one being. "Yes," they said together, their voices harmonizing in ways that defied physics. "Yes, we do."